Hello, this video has been brought to you by NordVPN. Use the code DOMIX at nordvpn.com/DOMIX for 66% off the 2-year plan. That accent has nothing to do with the rest of the video. While I was growing up, my family did a lot of moving. I was born in the Philippines,
moved to Saudi Arabia, then back to Philippines, then to Canada and several locations within Ontario, then to Virginia, USA, then
back to Canada. And because we did a lot of moving, I've had a lot of experience with being the new kid at school. I sometimes had the solidarity of my sisters whenever we became the new kids, but of course we were different ages in different classes, and one of us usually made new friends sooner than the other. I never went to school in the Philippines, but I did go to a Filipino school in Saudi Arabia. That's weird, I know, but it's true, and that's why I was confused as a kid and thought Saudi Arabia was just another very hot and somehow dry part of the Philippines. I was a new student, yes, but so was everyone else because it was our first time in a school environment. The biggest change that I've experienced must have been when we moved to Canada. We didn't have any family that lived here, only a few friends that thankfully helped us settle in. I didn't know English too well and had a girthy accent. I was only 7 but was aware enough to know that I was different from my classmates, who were predominantly white. I got my fair share of Asian prejudice growing up, and I didn't really know how to make friends. But somehow I did, and they just so happened to have the same birthday as me. Not only that, but also because we shared so many interests. Video games, Transformers, Power Rangers. I felt so relieved that coming from the other side of the world, being an outsider, I found things in common with strangers, and I no longer felt wary about being in a new country. Today, I'm able to maintain friendships with people around the world thanks to modern technology. But back then, moving a few cities away pretty much meant you were never going to see your friends ever again. And after living a year in Hamilton, I had to say goodbye. I then moved to Mississauga, which was an hour away. I was in grade 3, and while I was nervous about making new friends again, I soon realized that not everyone really had their friend groups established yet. There were actually a few other new kids as well. I didn't seem to have that much trouble befriending other kids because during recess, people would often set up games like tag or foot hockey, and they'd invite pretty much anyone available to play. And within that group of random kids, I got really close to a few, one being my rival and best friend at the time, Michael. He was not only my nakama, but also my role model. I really respected him and his chill, humorous personality. I wanted to be like him. That's probably when I really started wanting to be a funny person. I honestly thought that I'd stay at that school until I graduated, but near the end of grade 5, my parents told us some news that we were all too familiar with. This time, we were only moving somewhere else within the city, but it still felt like 1,000 miles to a kid. I kept in touch with some friends for a while, but we eventually grew apart. The move was kinda odd for me and my siblings. It happened a little more than a month into grade 6, so I had to say goodbye to everyone at the beginning of the year instead of the end. I almost felt like a plot device in an anime where a new kid transfers into a class in the middle of the year. You guys remember the story of Alvin and how that turned out, but actually when I first moved there, the teacher appointed one of the students to show me around and help me feel welcomed. They belonged more with the jocks group and asked me to play football with them during recess. I didn't want to be alone, but it was then that I realized you can't be friends with just anyone, and that was okay. They weren't necessarily bad people, I just didn't feel like I really clicked with any of them. Actually, one of them was kind of a dickhead and bullied me every now and then, but I got through it. And so I searched for friends elsewhere. I needed to be around the nerds, and it didn't take long to find them. I like to think my past moves have helped me befriend people quicker, especially with Michael's outgoing influence on me. The school was then split in grade 8, where some of us moved to another school and some of us stayed, depending on what side of the road you lived on. We all then became new kids in the newly built school, so it wasn't really a problem because everyone knew everyone. Going into high school was the same, where a lot of the friend groups were pretty much already established and just carried over from grade 8. The high school was made up of graduates from 3 elementary schools, and I was able to befriend people from there as well. I felt pretty comfortable where I was. After so many occasions of being the new kid, I was finally a long-term resident. So, when we moved to Virginia in 2006, after I've invested the past 8 years in Mississauga, 5 being in the newer area that I moved to, I had to throw it all away and I felt like all my progress was reset. Kinda like dying in lava in Minecraft. Although I would miss my friends, I was kind of excited to see what it would be like to move to a new country again. Excited to see what kind of new people I would meet. Excited to be exposed to new cultures. But it proved to be a little more difficult than I expected. Everyone already had their friend groups. I didn't feel like I really fit in anywhere. A few people did try to make me feel welcome, namely one girl who sat beside me in AP US History. She was nice, but personally I don't think we really connected that well, but despite that, she developed a crush on me, which I couldn't reciprocate, and it felt awkward to continue that acquaintanceship. She was a nice person, okay? I didn't hate her, but I just didn't think we'd be close friends. And say what you will about not giving her a chance or staying friends, but understand that by that time, I've gone through enough friendships and met enough strangers to know who I got along with. I tried to join some clubs, namely the anime club, to see what kind of people shared my interests. And,
Anime Club, every single Wednesday at room North 135.
everyone in my year seemed to already have their lives figured out. They had their academics in line, they knew what colleges they wanted to go to, they were applying for scholarships, while I was just worried about making friends and fitting in. And I pretty much spent most of 11th grade worrying about that. I really missed Canada. I guess that was what led me to depend on the internet and online games to meet new friends and maintain old ones from back home. But eventually, I thought it wasn't healthy for me to just be cooped up at home all the time. I thought I might as well embrace the new environment and make the best of it. I kept looking behind me instead of facing forward. After some time, I broke out of my timid shell and tried to be more outgoing, especially in my senior year where I got into breakdancing and really started making lasting friendships. You guys already know about that story. Before I even graduated, I was already informed that we were going to move back to Canada, and so I applied to schools there. I was accepted by and attended Ryerson University, and it kind of felt like going to school for the first time as a kid again. Everyone was a new kid who came from all sorts of places around the city, around the country, and around the world. Luckily, one of my high school friends from St. Marcellinus also got into the same program as I did, so we stuck by each other through the hells of architecture along with new friends that we met along the way. Although it seemed like the end of the world as a kid every time I had to move, I'm thankful for those experiences because it helped me build my social skills with people and prepared me for a world full of strangers and how unpredictable life can be. You never really know who you'll become friends with, especially not at first glance. Sometimes it takes a simple interaction over a similar interest. I befriended David in high school because he asked to borrow a scientific calculator, which we then started using to pass notes to each other. Michael started off as my enemy rival because we both sought to be the best in our talent. Alvin started off as an asshole and stayed that way for the duration that I knew him. But for all the friendships I've made, I understand that I would have never seen those kinds of relationships if I kept my doors closed. Whether you like it or not, change will come to you. Whether it patiently waits for you to invite them in, or if it kicks down your door and demands a beverage, it's up to you on how you would like to treat them. It's best to embrace it because they are there to teach you lessons, some of which might be easy and simple, and some which could be difficult and painful. I see new starts to be very refreshing. I see them as opportunities to do things differently, or even do things the same but with new people and new environments, which can still yield unique experiences. Chapters in our lives will eventually come to an end, and we must accept that it's time to turn the page and continue to the next. I want to thank NordVPN for being a frequent sponsor of the channel. It really supports the growing team that helps improve the animation quality. Progressively became more suspicious. He said he left the wallet by the jacuzzi. The only wallet we found was neither by the jacuzzi nor belonged. Alright, let's say you live in a condo, apartment complex, or some kind of home cluster that requires key access through a locked gate or door. You're inside and a stranger is at the door on the other side, waving at you, signaling you to open the door for them. Do you let them in? I freaking hate being in this situation. Every time I walk into my condo building and there's someone already in the vestibule trying to figure out how the buzzer works, probably for my prostitute neighbor, they see me come in and look at me like I'm their savior, expecting me to open the door for them. I guess I don't have much of a choice. I gotta get inside and I can't just open the door for myself and immediately close it behind me like, no, not you, only me. Well, technically there is a back entrance I could use, but that's on the opposite side of the building, and that feels like too much trouble just to avoid this situation. Or when I'm waiting for a pizza delivery in the lobby and an outsider pleads me to open the door as if they're escaping the plague outside. If I ignore them, I feel like an asshole. But if I open the door for them, I feel like I defeated the purpose of the security door. Well, I just let in a serial killer. I sure... Yeah, guys, this video's been brought... I hope everyone locks their doors and aren't depending on these doors as their only line of defense. Thanks, loser. I'll kill you last. I just recently came back from a trip to California for VidCon and Anime Expo. I had a blast seeing old friends and meeting new ones. Even though I only got to see a lot of you briefly, do know that I enjoyed whatever time we had. Except for when we were outside. Like, what is this, California? You're broken. Go home. Every year for Anime Expo, I rent out an Airbnb with some friends for the duration of the convention. And this year, we got ourselves this nice apartment suite in a gated complex. Unfortunately, at some point in the night, we ran out of toilet paper, and the Airbnb didn't have any extra rolls anywhere. It was like 3 a.m. and our drivers were too tired to go out and get some, and we didn't exactly feel safe walking out in the unknown neighborhood. Luckily, our friend Elle pointed out that there was a public bathroom on the first floor of the complex across from the gym. Nice. So Claire and I decided to head down for some toiletry shopping. Elle didn't really give us specific directions, so we had a little bit of trouble looking for the bathroom. During our search, we passed by the front gate, and a guy, probably in his early 20s, jogs up to the door in a slight panic.
Hey, oh, thank goodness. Hi, could you guys let me in? I was having a party up at the rooftop with my friends, and I think I left my wallet by the jacuzzi. I just want to check if it's there.
Literally the situation I hate. Claire and I looked at each other in hesitation. I don't think we can. Sorry, man. We're just visitors here.
Please, could you just help me out? I checked my car. It's not there. I'm pretty sure I left it upstairs.
Look, I don't know this guy, I don't know this neighborhood, I am not a bouncer. It was 3 a.m. and neither Claire nor I would have the reflex to defend ourselves from this sketchy dude if he was dangerous. He ain't got no biscuit, I ain't risking it. But he did know about the rooftop patio area with the jacuzzi, so he wasn't totally making it up. It was too late to pull out my fake Chinese and Claire's real Chinese to pretend we couldn't understand and use that as an excuse to leave. It was late, I was tired, there was a rumbly in my tummy, and I just wanted to get some toilet paper. Thanks. And on a side note, we held a little barbecue get-together with some friends the previous night, and then I got contacted the next day by the host saying there were reports of our party members damaging property and vomiting over the balcony the previous night, and while I believed to the extent of my knowledge that they were false accusations, I didn't want to dig a deeper hole for me and my group by letting in a stranger to a private complex. The door is locked for a reason. Sorry, man. We can't.
Come on.
And we headed back upstairs with an extreme lack of toilet paper. Do you think sketchbook paper would hurt? We couldn't find it. Also, there's a dude downstairs saying he forgot his